first song I want to talk about this week is The Cure's Killing an Arab. Released as a single shortly before it came out on the US release of Boys Don't Cry, this one stirred up a hell of a lot of controversy when it came out, and it still does. Go ahead and try and play all the xenophobic fear-mongering you want into this song, it's just not true. Because the fact of the matter is, this song is actually a musing on the work of one of the most famous writers of all time, Albert Camus. Smith said that the lyrics are actually an interpretation of his work, The Stranger, and those familiar with the story can see all of the very obvious lyrical links. The Cure was very aware of all of the misinterpretations and problems that this song caused, and after it was made part of their singles collection and pretty much any time it was released after the first time, it was accompanied by a sticker basically explaining what the song was really about and denouncing any violence towards anyone. Sadly, Robert Smith decided to buckle to public pressure in 2005 and he changed the song to Kissing an Arab. And then a few years ago, he completely changed all the lyrics to the song. Any way you slice it though, this song is not supposed to be racist or any sort of call to action. It's a literary commentary, that's all. Speaking of songs that have been thrown way off course over the past few decades, there may be no bigger one than the Rolling Stones' Brown Sugar. And I've always felt it's because the general public just wants to forget certain parts of the song, because there may be no better example of trying to deal with the lesser of, well, the lesser of about 3 or 4 evils depending on how you count. In modern times, most people take this as a direct reference to drug use, specifically heroin, while there are other people who see the rather obvious sexual overtones that run throughout the entire song. But oddly enough, almost everybody decides to completely ignore the opening verse of this song, which is as obvious as it gets. And Mick Jagger wrote what remains for me one of the most shocking lyrics to ever top the charts. For those of you who have forgotten to listen closely, the opening verse to Brown Sugar is the story of a slave on a ship hundreds of years ago who gets beaten, abused, and whipped before getting sold at the market down in New Orleans. And there's an implication within those beatings that whoever's doing it is absolutely getting off on doing it. The rest of the song turns directly to sex, with most of the situations being, well, they're scandalous to say the least. And the drug use allusions here are pretty obvious, but Mick Jagger himself said in a 1995 interview that if he wrote that song now, he'd absolutely censor himself, as he says that the lyrics here are just too raw and nasty, even for him. So yeah, while there are some drugs and sex in this song, people need to stop skipping over that much darker first verse. The last song people need to stop misinterpreting is one that I'm so glad to dispel, and it's Dolly Parton's I Will Always Love You. First off, Dolly Parton wrote this song and Whitney Houston just covered it. Get that straight. Over the years, this one has become a nauseating staple at weddings and overly dramatic scenes all across popular culture. But those of us who know what this song is actually about are no doubt rolling in laughter every time it's used like that. Written in 73 and released in 74, this is one of the few songs that actually topped the charts twice. But it's the background to the song that's always missing from the meaning and the intent here. Dolly Parton actually wrote this song for Porter Wagner, a man who at that time she was severing her professional relationship with completely. That's right, this song is not written as some grand gesture about vaulting your love to the next level. It's not written to constantly remind the other of how great your feelings are for one another. It's a breakup song. This is a last letter to someone who you once cared about. Go reread the lyrics to this one, because at the end of the day, it's actually far more appropriate for a funeral than it is for a wedding. The great thing about music is that so many songs can be interpreted in so many different ways, but there are a lot of cases where the meaning gets so far off balance that a little bit of correction becomes necessary. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook right here, and I'll see you guys again next time.